Distributors are constantly bombarded by messaging from tech companies promising to do the next best thing. But the reality is no tool is effective unless it's designed to support the distribution business model. Further yet, these options need to be properly assessed for how they support the strategic business plan of each unique business. Joining us today is Rick Johnson, Senior Principal Territory Manager with Epicor, to discuss some of the ways distributors can effectively evaluate their options in a way that aligns with the specific needs of their businesses. Rick has 16 years of experience working with Epicor's Profit 21 and has worked with hundreds of distributors. Welcome, Rick. So, Rick, let's start with talking about how distributors should be aligning their ERP evaluation with their actual strategic business plan.
Yeah, so often companies start by just kind of jumping into kind of a more tactical approach of their ERP evaluation. They identify some ERP vendors, they bring them in, they get a demo, they get price, and they get a price, and they kind of make a decision. And that is part of an ERP evaluation. But I think before you start that, it's very important that the ERP evaluation team meets with the executive leadership team and goes through the strategic plan, both short term for the coming year as well as more long term. If you think about a strategic plan, you build it top down, but you drive it bottom up. And so the key that you start with your objective, you start with your goals, and then the strategy is the important part of a business plan, right? Because that's where you're making choices. So you want to make sure the choices that your organization is making moving forward to help meet the objective, the choices they're making aligns with the need for an ERP, which ERP, and what you're going to look for in your evaluation in that ERP to make sure that it's aligning with the other choices and also the goals and objectives of the organization. And that takes it then from a more of a tactical approach to an evaluation to more of a strategic approach to the ERP evaluation. So I always think start by reviewing the business plan for the company and make sure that you align your evaluation with that business plan.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's helpful. So with all that said, could you walk us through what you would recommend to be that selection process?
Yeah, start with selection criteria. Again, sometimes people jump right into the activities, right? We're going to bring the vendor in, get demo, we'll do some discovery, we'll get price. But there's a step before that's often missed. Establish what your selection criteria is. And selection criteria can be a number of different things. It always starts with what the features and functions are of the application and how it aligns to your company's requirements. And then the second one is price. And a lot of companies stop right there. You need to expand that. You need to think about, technology. Is there a certain technology that we need? Because the future development of that application is often built on the technology that's lying underneath. Are we going to need to do integrations to third parties? APIs important? You need to make sure that you understand what the technology is. Commitment to your industry. If you're a wholesale distributor, you might want to think about, what ERP companies really focus on wholesale distribution? Because if they're a focus in my industry, then I know that they're probably going to have the requirements that I need. They're going to understand my business. How important is implementation to you? How about the actual technology partner themselves that you're going to select? What's their size? What do they spend? What kind of resources do they have? I'm making a decision not only for today, but for the next 5, 10, 20 years. So I want to make sure that my partner has the resources to continue to develop the application, to have human resources to help me implement the application with project managers and business consultants, application consultants. So, the size and scale of your partner might be a criteria that you want to think about. Do you want to work directly with the ERP company, or do you want to work through partners, value-added resellers? Neither one's right or wrong, both work, but you want to just decide if that's a selection criteria. So go through and think about what you want your selection criteria to be, because that will then kind of point you to the ERP vendors themselves that you want to bring into your evaluation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And don't skip any steps, right?
Right. And then after that, it becomes much easier, because now instead of bringing in 8 to 10 different software vendors, some that don't align to your criteria and spending a lot of time and resources, now I've narrowed it down to maybe 2 or 3 that align really well with my criteria. And then at that point, it becomes much simpler. right? There's usually 5 stages. You can call them whatever you want. I always think of a recognition stage where I bring the vendor in, software vendor, for maybe 2 hours, kind of high level discussions on what our requirements are. Can they meet these requirements? Maybe even though it's very early, maybe you want to have a discussion about pricing. You kind of want to get a sense of who their customers are. Are their customers like my customers? So I know there's an alignment there. But the reason to have that initial 2-hour meeting is because it can save you a lot. At the end of that 2 hours, you can decide, let's move forward, let's not move forward. And if I don't move forward, fine. Now I've saved a lot of time and resources for my organization by going through an entire evaluation with somebody that doesn't fit. Next step is pretty easy. It's what I term the determining needs. It's really the discovery phase, right? Number of ways you can do it. You can bring both vendors in for 1 or 2 full days and have them meet with all your functional managers and document all the different requirements for order management, for purchasing and inventory control, for warehousing, for accounting, for e-commerce. Or another way you can do it is build those yourselves before you start meeting with vendors, and just do it by function and meet with each functional manager and identify all the different features and functions, all the different challenges that they have, what they need in the software. And then you can provide that document to the vendors. And then you might want to do both. You might want to have a requirements document. Some people might call it an RFI, but you might want to have a requirements document, share it with the vendors, and then still have the vendors come in to ask their clarifying questions. But determining needs is very, very important. You need to do that before the demo. Otherwise, you're going to get a very generic demo. If somebody's going to demo to me, I want it to be very personalized to my business and what my requirements are. Third step is just the evaluate options stage, right? So you're just bringing vendors in now and doing an ERP demonstration, usually a day and a half. After that, the 4th stage is risk concerns, right? I've seen all the demos. I have some concerns. I have some risk. It might even be with my own company in terms of maybe things like our ability to implement it, or it might be concerns, risk I have with each vendor. But I want to then have the risk concerns stage where I start identifying my risk and then building a plan to mitigate those risks with each one of the vendors. And then the last one is obviously the negotiation of the proposal and signing an order. So those are kind of the 5 stages that you commonly see. What you call them isn't important, but what you do in each stage is important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds like it. So, okay, well, thank you for that very specific rundown on the selection process. If there's information that our viewers want to find from Epicor, where should we send them?
Yeah, they're more than free to just call or contact myself or any of our salespeople at Epicor, or you can go on our website and there's a number of documents around a successful ERP evaluation. So I'd probably encourage him to start there by going to the website and downloading one of those documents.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you so much, Rick Johnson from Epicor. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you.